The doors were made of crystal grown in the heart of a dying star. They stood 300 feet tall and weighed more than a battleship. When they opened, the sound echoed across dimensions that human ears could barely comprehend. Ambassador David Cole had prepared for this moment his entire life. 57 years of diplomatic service. 3 decades of studying alien cultures. 15 years of waiting for humanity to earn a seat at this table. None of it prepared him for what he saw. The Galactic High Council chamber stretched before him like a wound in reality. The ceiling did not exist in any traditional sense. Instead, captured nebulae swirled overhead, their purple and gold gases casting shifting shadows across the assembly below. The floor was transparent, revealing a black hole spinning silently beneath their feet, its event horizon close enough to touch, if one were foolish enough to try, and the aliens. Dear God, the aliens' 1,200 species sat in ascending galleries that curved around the central platform, like the inside of a shell. Some were giants, 30 feet tall with skin like hammered bronze. Others were clouds of luminescent gas contained in magnetic bottles. Creatures with 1,000 eyes. Beings made of pure geometric light. Things that existed in 4 dimensions. And cast shadows that moved independently of their bodies. Every single one of them was staring. At the 6 humans who had just entered, David felt his team tense behind. Him, Dr. Maria Santos, his chief xenolinguist, gripped her translation device so hard her knuckles turned white. Commander Eric Larson, head of security, had his hand near his sidearm, despite knowing it would be useless here. The 2 diplomatic aides, young and terrified, stood frozen in place. And at the back of the group, trying to be invisible, stood Cadet Nora Marsh. She was 23 years old. She should not have been here at all. But circumstances had conspired against her. And now she stood in the most powerful chamber in the galaxy, with a secret that could destroy everything humanity had worked for. The secret sat at her feet. Hidden beneath her formal diplomatic cloak, it was a dog. A 2-year-old German shepherd named Atlas. The tribunal primus spoke first. It was not a creature in any biological sense. It was a construct of pure information, a judicial intelligence that had presided over galactic law for 11,000 years. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Species designation human. Origin system soul. 3rd planetary body. You have requested formal recognition from the Galactic Council. You have petitioned for trade rights, territorial acknowledgement, and protected status under the Covenant of Sentient Species. David stepped forward, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. That is correct, Primus. Humanity comes before this council in peace, seeking partnership with the galactic community. Your request has been received. It will be evaluated. A murmur ran through the galleries. David caught fragments of translated speech. Primitive species. Barely spacefaring. Carbon-based predators. Dangerous evolutionary history. The last comment came from a section of the gallery, dominated by massive reptilian creatures. Their scales shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that David's briefings identified as threat displays. The Vorthan Empire. Conquerors of 60 worlds. The most aggressive military power in the known galaxy. Their leader sat at the front of their delegation. General Krath. 12 feet of armored muscle and barely contained violence. He had crushed rebellions across 3 star clusters. He had never lost a battle, and he was looking at Cadet Marsh with an expression that made David's blood run cold. Primus. Krath's voice rumbled across the chamber like distant thunder. I object to this species receiving protected status. Our scouts have studied their homeworld. They are not civilized beings. They are predators who have somehow developed technology. David forced himself to respond calmly. With respect, General, every spacefaring species began as predators. Evolution rewards those who can compete. You misunderstand, human. We know what predators look like. We are predators ourselves. But your species is different. Your world is different. Krath rose from his seat, his massive form casting a shadow across the entire human delegation. Earth contains more varieties of killing machines than any planet in the galactic catalog. Your oceans are filled with creatures that have perfected murder for 400 million years. Your land is ruled by beasts that hunt in coordinated packs, that kill for sport, that show no mercy to the weak. He descended from the gallery, each footstep shaking the crystal floor. And you, humans, are the worst of them all. You did not defeat these predators. You did not drive them to extinction. You made them your allies. You convinced wolves to guard your children. You taught birds to hunt for you. You ride upon beasts that could trample you in an instant. He stopped 10 feet from David, his eyes burning with something between fear and hatred. What kind of species makes friends with death itself? David opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, disaster struck. Atlas moved. The dog had been perfectly still beneath Nora's cloak, trained to remain hidden during the entire proceedings. But something in the chamber had triggered his protective instincts. A scent, a sound, a threat his ancient brain recognized, even if his conscious mind did not. He emerged from beneath the cloak, positioning himself between Nora and General Krath, his body low and tense. A growl building in his throat, the chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens screamed in frequencies that shattered translation devices. Security drones materialized from hidden alcoves. Weapons charged across 1,000 galleries. The Tribunal Primus flared with emergency protocols. Biological weapon detected. Threat level Omega. All species. Assume defensive positions. David watched in horror as everything he had worked for collapsed in an instant. Protected status. Trade rights. Peaceful integration. All of it burning away because a young woman had brought her dog to the most important moment in human history. But Nora did not panic. She dropped to one knee, placing her hand on Atlas's head. The dog stopped growling immediately, his tail giving a single uncertain wag. He looked up at her, waiting for guidance. "It is not a weapon," Nora said, her voice cutting through the chaos with startling clarity. "He is my friend. He was trying to protect me." General Krath laughed. It was a terrible sound, like metal tearing. "Protect you? From what? From me?" He stepped closer, looming over the young cadet and her animal. "This creature weighs less than my arm. It could not harm me if it tried. You would be surprised what he could do," Nora said quietly. "But that is not the point. He was not trying to hurt you. He was trying to stand between you and me. He was trying to keep me safe. Why would a beast care about your safety?" Nora looked up at the massive general, her fear visible but controlled. "Because I saved his life when he was a puppy. Because I fed him when he was hungry and kept him warm when he was cold. Because I have been there for him every single day since he was born." She paused. "Because he loves me. And I love him." The chamber fell silent. General Kraft stared at the human and her beast. The concept she described did not translate properly. Love between species. Loyalty without hierarchy. Protection without dominance. Slowly, deliberately, Krath reached down toward Atlas. "Do not," Nora said. "Or what?" "I will not let you hurt him. You cannot stop me." "No," Nora agreed. "But I will try. And so will every human who ever hears about what you did today. And we will not stop trying until one of us is gone." The General's clawed hand hovered over the dog's head. The galaxy held its breath. An ambassador. David Cole realized that the fate of humanity now rested on what a 23-year-old Cadet would do if a warlord touched her dog. General. Krath's claw touched the dog's fur. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for the next 10,000 years. Atlas did not bite. He did not growl. He did not attack. Instead, the German shepherd did something that confused every alien watching the scene unfold. He sat down, looked directly into General Krath's eyes, and waited. The general froze. In 300 years of conquest, he had faced armies, assassins, and monsters from the dark spaces between stars. He had never faced a creature that simply sat down and looked at him with calm, patient eyes. What is it doing? Krath demanded. He is waiting, Nora said. He is waiting to see what kind of being you are. I do not understand. He knows you could kill him. He has always known that. But he is not afraid of you. He is curious about you. He wants to know if you are a threat to his family, or if you might be something else. Something else? A friend. The word hung in the air. Around the chamber, 1,200 species watched in stunned silence. The concept of predators becoming friends was so alien to most of them that their translation devices struggled to convey the meaning. Ambassador Cole saw his opportunity. He stepped forward carefully, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. Primus, if I may address the council. The tribunal Primus flickered, its geometric form unstable with conflicting protocols. The presence of the creature is a violation of council security regulations. It must be removed immediately. I understand. But before that happens, I believe the council deserves an explanation. You called this animal a biological weapon. You are wrong. And if you let me explain why, you will understand something fundamental about humanity. Krath turned his massive head toward the ambassador. You think words can change what this creature is? I think understanding can change what you believe it is, General. And that is far more important. The Primus considered for a long moment. Finally, it spoke. Ambassador Cole will be permitted to address the council. The creature will remain under guard. Any aggressive action will result in immediate termination. Nora felt her heart stop. She looked at Atlas, who was still sitting calmly at her feet, his tail giving occasional uncertain wags. He did not understand that his life now hung by a thread, but he trusted her. He trusted that she would keep him safe, just as she always had. She would die before she let them hurt him. Cole walked to the center of the chamber, standing on the platform beneath the swirling nebulae. He took a deep breath and began to speak. 15,000 years ago, on a cold night somewhere on our planet, a wolf walked into a human camp. Wolves were predators. They hunted the same animals we hunted. They were our competitors, our enemies. He paused, letting the translation systems catch up. The rational response would have been to kill the wolf, drive it away, protect our territory and our food supply. That is what predators do. That is what any species following evolutionary logic would do. But our ancestors did something different. They saw the wolf was hungry. They threw it scraps of meat. The wolf came back the next night, and the night after that. Eventually, it stopped running away. It started to stay. General Krath snorted. So you fed a predator until it became dependent on you. That is not remarkable. That is simply practical domestication. No, General. You misunderstand. The wolf was never domesticated. Neither were any of the creatures that followed. Dogs, cats, horses, birds of prey. None of them were conquered. All of them chose us. This time, the murmur that ran through the galleries was different. Not confused, disbelieving. The wolf could have stolen our food and disappeared. It could have attacked us in our sleep. Instead, it started to guard our camps at night. It barked warnings when danger approached. It hunted alongside us and shared its kills. Why? The question came from a delegation of crystalline beings near the top of the chamber. Because it saw something in us, something worth following. Humans are social creatures. We form bonds. We share resources. We protect our families, even when there is no logical reason to do so. The wolf recognized those traits. It saw that being part of a human pack was better than being alone. Cole turned to face General Krath directly. Over generations, wolves that trusted humans had more offspring. Humans that trusted wolves survived at higher rates. We evolved together, not through conquest or control, but through mutual choice, through partnership. That is why Atlas does not fear you, General. He is not a slave who trembles before a master. He is a partner who stands beside his family. He knows exactly how dangerous you are, and he has decided that standing between you and Nora is worth the risk. Kraft looked down at the dog again. Atlas looked back, his brown eyes steady and unafraid. "This is absurd," Kraft said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. "A creature that would willingly die for a being that is not even its own species? No evolution could produce such a thing. Our evolution did. Because we are strange, General. We are strange in a way that terrifies you, even if you do not want to admit it. I am not afraid of humans." "Yes, you are. The Vorthan Empire has been watching Earth for centuries. You know exactly what we are capable of. You know that we domesticated fire itself before we domesticated anything else. You know that we survived ice ages, plagues, and predators that would make your worst nightmares seem gentle." Cole's voice grew harder. "You know that when our cities burned, we rebuilt them. When our people died, we mourned them and kept going. When our world threatened to destroy us, we reached for the stars instead. And every step of the way, our animals were beside us, not because we forced them, because they wanted to be there." The Tribunal Primus spoke. "Ambassador Cole, your explanation is noted. However, the presence of the creature remains a security violation. It must be quarantined until its threat level can be properly assessed." "I understand," Cole said, "but I have one request. Allow Cadet Marsh to remain with the animal during quarantine. Separating them could have consequences you are not prepared for." "Explain." "Atlas has been with Nora since he was 8 weeks old. They have never been separated for more than a few hours. If you take him away from her, he will become distressed. He will stop eating. He will try to escape to find her. And if he believes she is in danger, he will fight. Not because he is a weapon, but because he is loyal beyond reason." "And Cadet Marsh?" Nora spoke before Cole could answer. "If you take him from me, I will find a way to get him back. I do not care how many guards you post or how many walls you put between us. I will break every rule, violate every protocol, and fight every battle necessary to be with my friend again." The chamber fell silent. General Krath stared at the young human cadet. She was 5 feet tall. She weighed perhaps 120 pounds. She could not lift his arm, let alone threaten his life. And yet, when she spoke those words, something deep in his warrior's instincts stirred. She meant it. Every word. The Tribunal Primus made its decision. The creature and the cadet will remain together during quarantine. The assessment will begin immediately. As security drones moved to escort Nora and Atlas away, General Kraft called out, "Human, what you said about fighting every battle, were those empty words or a genuine threat?" Nora looked back at him, Atlas walking calmly at her side. "They were a promise, General. Humans do not make empty threats about the things we love. We just make promises we intend to keep." She disappeared through a security door, leaving the chamber in stunned silence, and General Kraft felt something he had not felt in 3 centuries, The quarantine cell was cold. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that never dimmed, and the air tasted recycled and sterile. Nora sat on a hard bench with Atlas curled against her legs, his warmth the only comfort in the alien prison. 3 days had passed since the incident in the council chamber. 3 days of silence, tasteless food, and the constant hum of security drones hovering outside her cell. 3 days of not knowing if humanity's future had been destroyed by her decision to bring her dog. Across the stars, she had not planned to be here at all, 2 weeks before the diplomatic mission launched. Her father had collapsed at home. Captain Thomas Marsh, 30 years in the Earth Defense Fleet, struck down by a blood clot in his brain. He was still alive, but barely. Medical stasis was keeping him stable while doctors searched for a solution. Nora had begged to stay. She had applied for emergency leave. She had done everything she could to remain at his side, but the mission was critical. Earth needed every qualified officer aboard. Her request was denied. She was told that duty came first, that her father would understand, so she had smuggled Atlas aboard the diplomatic vessel. Atlas, who had been her father's dog before he was hers. Atlas, who had sat at her father's bedside every day until the mission forced them apart. She could not leave him behind. She could not leave the last piece of her family alone on Earth. While she traveled to the far side of the galaxy, now she faced the consequences. The cell door slid open. Ambassador Cole entered, his face drawn with exhaustion. "How is he?" Nora asked immediately. "Your father?" "No change. He is still in stasis." Cole sat on the bench across from her. "How are you?" "Scared, guilty, angry at myself for putting everything at risk. You should be." Cole's voice was not unkind, but it was honest. "What you did was reckless. It could have cost us everything we have worked for." "I know. But it has also created an opportunity." Nora looked up. "What do you mean?" "The Tribunal Primus has been studying Atlas for 3 days. They have analyzed his brain chemistry, his emotional responses, his behavior patterns. They have never encountered anything like him." "Like him how?" Cole leaned forward. "Every predator species the Council has cataloged operates on self-interest. Competition for resources. Survival of the individual or the immediate family group. The idea of a predator forming a permanent, unconditional bond with a being from a different species is completely alien to them. But dogs have been with humans for thousands of years." "Exactly. And the Council is starting to understand what that means. The bond between you and Atlas is not unique. It is not special. It is the baseline for your entire species. Every human on Earth has the capacity to form that kind of connection. With animals, with each other, with beings they have never even met." Atlas lifted his head, his ears perking at the sound of footsteps in the corridor outside. "General Kraft has been asking questions," Cole continued. "About dogs, about other Earth animals, about how humans form these bonds. He seems genuinely curious, or genuinely frightened. I cannot tell which." "He should be frightened," Nora said quietly. "Why?" "Because he grabbed Atlas. He threatened him. He made me afraid for his life." She looked at Cole with eyes that held no anger, only cold certainty. "I would have killed him. I know I could not have succeeded. I know his guards would have stopped me before I got close. But I would have tried. And I would have kept trying until they put me down." Cole studied her face for a long moment. "You realize that saying things like that does not help our diplomatic position." "I am not trying to help our diplomatic position. I am telling you the truth. And if General Kraft has been asking questions about humanity, he should hear this truth. He should understand what he was playing with." The door opened again. This time it was Commander Larson, the security officer. "Ambassador." You need to see this. They followed Larson to a command center that the Council had provided for the human delegation. The walls were covered with holographic displays showing data streams in a dozen alien languages. Dr. Santos was already there, her face pale. What happened? Cole asked. Santos pointed to one of the displays. We intercepted a transmission from the Vorthan fleet. General Croft has been communicating with his empire for the past 2 days. He has been sharing everything we told the Council. About dogs. About human bonds. About our capacity for loyalty. And the Vorthan High Command has reached a conclusion. They believe humanity is too dangerous to be allowed into the galactic community. They are recommending that the Council reject our petition for protected status. Nora felt her heart sink. Because of me? Because of Atlas? No. Santos shook her head. Because of what Atlas represents. The Vorthan military is afraid of us. Genuinely afraid. They have run simulations on what would happen if they went to war with Earth. The projections are not good for them. How is that possible? They have 60 conquered worlds. We have 1. But we have something they cannot quantify. The Vorthan understand force. They understand dominance and submission and the mathematics of war. What they do not understand is irrational loyalty. The willingness to fight and die for something that makes no strategic sense. Santos pulled up another display. According to their simulations, human soldiers would not surrender even when defeat was certain. Human populations would resist occupation for generations. Human commanders would sacrifice entire fleets to protect single colonies. The cost of conquering Earth would be astronomical, not because we are strong, but because we would never, ever stop fighting. Cole stared at the data. They are afraid because we love too much. They are afraid because they cannot predict what love will make us do. The door opened a 3rd time. A Council security officer entered, its form a shifting mass of metallic tendrils. Ambassador Cole, your presence is requested in the primary judgment chamber. The Tribunal Primus has reached a decision regarding your species petition. Cole straightened his uniform. What is the decision? That information will be disclosed in open session. All members of your delegation are required to attend. The tendrils shifted toward Nora, including the cadet and her creature. Nora looked at Atlas, then at Cole. They want us there? Apparently. She stood, her hand finding Atlas's collar by instinct. The dog rose with her, his body pressing against her leg. Then we go together. The journey back to the judgment chamber felt longer than before. The corridors were empty, cleared of the alien dignitaries who usually crowded them. The silence was oppressive. When they reached the massive crystal doors, Nora paused. Ambassador? Whatever happens in there, I want you to know that I'm sorry. I never meant to jeopardize the mission. Cole looked at her for a long moment. I know, and for what it is worth, I understand why you did it. I had a dog when I was younger, a beagle named Murphy. He passed away 15 years ago. I still miss him every day. The doors began to open. Whatever happens in there, Cole continued, remember that you are not just representing yourself. You are representing every human who has ever loved something more than their own life. Show them what that means. Nora took a deep breath. Atlas wagged his tail once. They stepped through the doors. The chamber was different now. The galleries were full, but the atmosphere had changed. Instead of curiosity or hostility, Nora sensed something else in the air. Something that felt almost like anticipation. General Kraft stood in the center of the floor, directly beneath the swirling nebulae. His posture was rigid, his claws extended, his threat displays flickering in complex patterns. He was waiting for her. The Tribunal Primus spoke. The assessment is complete. A decision has been reached. But before the verdict is announced, General Kraft of the Vorthan Empire has invoked the right of challenge. He wishes to address the human delegation directly. Krath's voice echoed across the chamber. I have spent 3 days studying your species. I have learned about your dogs, your cats, your horses. I have learned about your wars, your sacrifices, your stubborn refusal to surrender, even when logic demands it. He stepped toward Nora, his massive form blocking out the light from the captured nebulae above. I have one final question, one that will determine whether your species lives or dies. Nora stood her ground. Atlas sat calmly at her feet. Ask. Krath leaned down until his face was inches from hers. If I killed this animal right now, in front of all these witnesses, what would you do? The chamber fell absolutely silent. Nora looked up at the warlord who had conquered 60 worlds, and she smiled. Nora smiled. And General Krath felt something cold crawl through his ancient bones. What would I do? She repeated. First, I would try to stop you. I would fail. You are too fast, too strong, too well protected. Your guards would restrain me before I could even reach you. She spoke calmly, as if discussing the weather on a distant world. Then I would wait. I would wait for years if necessary. I would learn everything about you, your habits, your weaknesses, the names of everyone you have ever loved. I would become the most patient predator in the galaxy. Krath's threat displays flickered uncertainly. This was not the reaction he had expected. And then I would find a way. It might take decades. It might take my entire life. But eventually, I would find a moment when your guards were not watching. A moment when you felt safe. And in that moment, I would take everything from you. She looked directly into his eyes. Not just your life. That would be too quick. Too merciful. I would take your legacy. Your empire. Your name. I would make sure that 1,000 years from now, when beings speak of General Krath, they do not remember your conquests. They remember only that you were the fool who made an enemy of a human by hurting her dog. The chamber was absolutely silent. 1,200 species watched, unable to process what they were witnessing. A small, fragile human female threatening the most feared warlord in the galaxy. And meaning every word. Ambassador Cole stepped forward, his face carefully neutral. General Krath, I believe you have your answer. May I speak? Krath straightened slowly, his eyes never leaving Nora's face. Speak. What Cadet Marsh just described is not madness. It is not irrationality. It is human nature. Every single member of my species carries the same capacity within them. We do not choose to love. We do not decide to form bonds. We simply do, as naturally as breathing. He gestured toward the galleries, toward the thousands of alien beings watching in stunned silence. You asked why the Vorthan simulations predict such high costs for conquering Earth. This is why. You cannot defeat an enemy who will never stop. You cannot break a species that finds its strength in love rather than power. Kill one of us, and you do not weaken us. You give every other human a reason to fight forever. This is insane, Krath growled. Yes, by your standards, it absolutely is. By any rational calculation, Cadet Marsh should fear you. She should submit. She should bargain for her life and the life of her animal. Instead, she is standing here calmly explaining how she would destroy your empire if you harm her dog. Cole paused. Does that not tell you something, General? Does that not suggest that perhaps your calculations are missing a variable? The Tribunal Primus interrupted. This exchange has provided valuable data. The Council will now deliberate. But before anyone could move, a new voice echoed through the chamber. Wait. Every eye turned toward the source. It was a delegate from the Serexi Collective, a species of telepathic beings who resembled giant cephalopods floating in anti-gravity harnesses. Their representative drifted forward, tentacles moving in slow, deliberate patterns. "We have been monitoring the emotional states of all beings in this chamber," the Sirexi said. "We wish to share our observations." The Primus flickered. "Proceed." "General Krath, when you threatened the human's animal, your emotional state registered as dominant, triumphant. You expected to provoke fear. You expected submission." The Sirexi turned its massive eyes toward Nora. The human's emotional state registered as terrified. She was more afraid in that moment than any being we have monitored in decades of council proceedings. Krath's posture shifted. "Then I achieved my goal." "No, you misunderstand." Her fear was not for herself. Her fear was entirely focused on the animal at her feet. She was terrified that she would fail to protect him, that she would watch him die while she was helpless. To intervene, the Sirexi moved closer to Atlas, who watched the floating creature with curious but calm eyes. And yet, despite that terror, her resolve registered as absolute. She was not lying about her intentions. If you had harmed the animal, she would have spent her entire life seeking vengeance. The terror and the resolve existed simultaneously. They did not conflict. They amplified each other. How is that possible? It is not possible. Not according to any psychological model we have ever developed. Terror should inhibit action. It should promote submission. But in humans, terror for loved ones produces the opposite effect. It creates what their species calls desperation. And desperation makes them more dangerous, not less. The Sirexi turned to address the full council. "We have studied many predator species. We have cataloged their behavioral patterns, their threat responses, their limits. Humans have no limits. Not when the beings they love are threatened. They will sacrifice their own survival, their own interests, their own sanity. They will burn their worlds to ash if that is what it takes to protect what they love. This is not a weakness. This is the most terrifying thing we have ever encountered." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegations shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Security drones hummed with activated weapons. The fragile peace of the council session was shattering. General Krath raised his clawed hand, and somehow the chamber fell silent. "You speak of humans as if they were monsters," he said. "But I have conquered monsters. I have crushed them beneath my armies. If humans are so dangerous, why have they not already conquered the galaxy?" The Sirexi responded immediately. "Because they do not want to conquer. Their psychology is fundamentally different from yours, General. You seek power because power protects you. They seek connection because connection fulfills them. They do not expand to dominate. They explore to understand. They form bonds wherever they go, with beings of every species they encounter, including you." Krath stiffened. "What do you mean?" "We have been monitoring your emotional state as well, General. Over the past 3 days, as you studied humanity, something changed in you. When you first saw the animal, you felt contempt. Now, when you look at it, you feel curiosity, interest, and something else. Something you do not have a word for. I feel nothing. You feel the beginning of a bond. The human cadet's willingness to die for her animal has impressed you. You recognize it as courage, even if you do not understand its source. Part of you wants to understand. Part of you wonders what it would be like to have a creature look at you the way that animal looks at her." Krath's threat displays went dark. The Sirexi turned back to the council. "This is what humans bring to the galaxy. Not conquest, not destruction, connection. They will try to befriend everything they meet. They will offer loyalty without expectation of return. They will love beings who cannot love them back. And if you threaten what they love, they will become more dangerous than any weapon ever created." Ambassador Cole stepped forward once more. "Primus, I believe the council has heard enough. Humanity asks for nothing more than a chance. A chance to prove that our capacity for love is not a threat to galactic civilization. A chance to show that the same bonds we form with our animals, we can form with the beings of 1,000 different worlds. He looked at General Krath, including the Vorthen. Krath did not respond. His eyes were fixed on Atlas, who had fallen asleep at Nora's feet, utterly unconcerned with the fate of civilizations being decided above his head. The Tribunal Primus spoke. The Council will now vote. The question before us is simple. Should humanity be granted protected status and admitted to the galactic community? Or should they be quarantined and denied further contact with spacefaring civilizations? Lights began to flicker across the galleries as delegations registered their votes. Nora watched, her heart pounding, one hand resting on Atlas's sleeping form. The count took several minutes. When it was complete, the Primus announced the result. The vote is tied. 600 to 600. By council law, the deciding vote falls to the Tribunal Primus. Every being in the chamber held its breath. The Primus flickered, its geometric form shifting through patterns that no organic mind could interpret. The Tribunal has observed humanity for centuries. We have watched them rise from primitive hunters to a spacefaring civilization. We have studied their wars, their art, their science. And now we have witnessed something we did not expect. A bond that defies explanation. A loyalty that defies logic. The Primus turned its attention directly to Nora and Atlas. We do not understand humans. We may never understand them. But we have decided that is precisely why they should be admitted. The universe needs beings who love without reason, who fight without hope, who would burn everything they have for a single creature sleeping at their feet. Humanity's petition is granted. Welcome to the galactic community. The chamber exploded into noise. Half the delegations cheered. The other half roared in outrage, but Nora barely heard any of it. She was kneeling on the crystal floor, her arms wrapped around Atlas, tears streaming down her face. They had won. The celebration did not last. 3 hours after the vote, alarms began screaming across the council station. Security drones swarmed through corridors. Diplomatic delegations were rushed to emergency shelters. The crystal walls of the judgment chamber sealed themselves behind energy barriers, designed to withstand nuclear strikes. Ambassador Cole found himself standing with his delegation in a fortified command center, watching holographic displays that showed the unthinkable. The Vorthen fleet had arrived, 30 warships, each one larger than the council station itself, hung in the darkness of space like predators circling wounded prey. Their weapons were charged. Their shields were active. Their communications channels were broadcasting a single repeating message. General Krath has been recalled to the homeworld. He is to be arrested for treason. His sympathetic statements toward humanity constitute a violation of imperial doctrine. All humans are to be detained pending military tribunal. Commander Larson swore under his breath. They cannot do this. We are under council protection now. The Vorthen do not recognize council protection for new member species, Dr. Santos said, her face pale. There is a 60-day probationary period. During that time, we are vulnerable. Cole turned to face his team. Where is Cadet Marsh? No one knew. Nora had slipped away during the chaos, Atlas at her heels. She had followed a path through maintenance corridors that the security systems had not anticipated. She had learned the route by studying schematics during her 3 days of quarantine. Planning for exactly this kind of emergency dot, she found General Krath in a small observation lounge overlooking the Vorthen fleet. He was alone, his massive form silhouetted against the stars, watching the ships that had come to destroy him. You should not be here, he said without turning. Neither should you. Krath made a sound that might have been a laugh. No, I suppose not. 300 years of service. 60 conquered worlds. And it ends here, in disgrace, because I hesitated to kill a small furry creature. Nora walked to stand beside him. Atlas followed, sitting at her feet with his usual calm patience. Why did you hesitate? Krath was silent for a long moment. I do not know. When I looked into its eyes, I saw something I did not expect. It was not afraid of me. Not in the way prey is afraid. It simply waited, watching, judging. He turned to face her. It looked at me the way you look at it, with trust, with expectation, as if it believed I might be worthy of something. And were you? I let it live. I suppose that counts for something. Through the window, one of the Vorthan ships began moving toward the station. Its weapons ports glowed with charging energy. They will breach the station within the hour, Croft said. They will kill everyone who resists. Your delegation will be executed as a warning to other species who might consider allying with humans. I will be executed for weakness. And Atlas? They will study it, dissect it, try to understand what makes your species form these bonds. They will fail, of course. They do not have the capacity to understand. They never will. Nora felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear. Something older, darker. Then we do not let them take the station? Krath stared at her. You have no fleet. You have no weapons. You have 6 diplomats and a dog. What could you possibly do against 30 warships? I do not know yet, but I am going to find out. She turned and walked toward the door. Atlas rose and followed her. Human, she paused. Why are you not afraid? You know what is coming. You know you cannot win. Why do you keep fighting? Nora looked back at him. The warlord who had conquered 60 worlds. The soldier who had never known defeat until he met a German shepherd and a girl who refused to leave him behind. Because that is what we do. We fight for the things we love, even when we cannot win, especially when we cannot win. That is the whole point. She left him alone with his thoughts and his regrets. Nora found Ambassador Cole in the command center, arguing with council officials who seemed paralyzed by the crisis. She pushed through the crowd and grabbed his arm. I have an idea. Cadet, now is not the time. Now is exactly the time. Listen to me. The Sorexi were right about what makes humans dangerous. We need to show the Vorthan fleet what that means. Cole stared at her. How? Broadcast. Love to every ship in that fleet. Let them see exactly what they are dealing with. It took 15 minutes to arrange. The council station's communication systems were powerful enough to punch through the Vorthan jamming. When the signal went live, it reached every screen, every speaker. Every neural interface on all 30 warships. Nora stood in front of the camera. Atlas sat beside her. Behind them, through the transparent walls of the observation lounge, the Vorthan fleet hung in space like a promise of destruction. My name is Nora Marsh. I am 23 years old. I am a cadet in the Earth Defense Fleet, and this is my dog, Atlas. She took a deep breath. 3 days ago, your General Krath grabbed my dog by the neck. He threatened to kill him. He expected me to submit. Instead, I promised to destroy his empire if he hurt my friend. General Krath released my dog, not because he was afraid of me. I could not threaten him. I am small and weak and insignificant. He released my dog because he saw something in my eyes that confused him. Something he did not understand. He saw love. He saw a human willing to die for a creature that most of you consider worthless. He saw the truth about my species. Across the Vorthan fleet, soldiers and commanders watched in silence. They had never seen anything like this. A human, alone and defenseless, speaking to them as if she were the one with the power. You are here to arrest General Krath for showing mercy. You are here to punish him for hesitating to hurt something small and helpless. Think about that. Think about what that says about your empire. And then think about what my species will do if you attack this station. She reached down and put her hand on Atlas's head. The dog looked up at her, tail wagging gently. There are 12 billion humans on Earth. Every single one of them has something they love more than their own life. A child, a parent, a friend, a pet, something small and precious that they would burn the universe to protect. If you attack this station, you will not just be killing diplomats. You will be creating 12 billion enemies who will never stop fighting, never stop hunting, never stop coming for you. General Krath learned this lesson. He is the greatest warrior your empire has ever produced, and he hesitated because he finally understood what he was facing. Are you wiser than him? Are you stronger? Do you truly want to make enemies of a species that loves like we do? She paused. You have 1 hour to withdraw. After that, we stopped talking. The transmission ended. For 47 minutes, nothing happened. The Vorthen fleet hung motionless in space. The council station's inhabitants held their breath. Then, one by one, the warships began to turn. They did not retreat. Vorthen did not retreat, but they reoriented their weapons away from the station. They opened communication channels. They requested negotiations. Commander Larson watched in disbelief. They are standing down. How is that possible? Ambassador Cole looked at Nora, who was sitting on the floor with Atlas's head in her lap, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Because she showed them the truth. Not about our military strength. Not about our technology. About our hearts. 3 weeks later, Nora stood on the observation deck of a human transport ship, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. Atlas sat beside her, his tail wagging at the familiar sight. The diplomatic crisis had resolved in ways no one expected. General Krath had not been arrested. Instead, he had been appointed as the Vorthen liaison to humanity, tasked with understanding the species that had so thoroughly confused his empire. He had requested only one condition for accepting the position. He wanted a dog. Earth's government was still processing that request. Nora's communicator chirped. A message from the medical facility where her father remained in stasis. Patient showing signs of recovery. Consciousness expected within 48 hours. She closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Atlas pressed against her, whimpering softly, confused by her distress, but determined to comfort her anyway. "We are going home, boy," she whispered. "Dad is going to be okay. We are going home." Behind her, through the viewport, the stars stretched toward infinity. Somewhere out there, 1,200 species were learning. A lesson that humanity had known for 15,000 years. Love was not weakness. Love was the most powerful force in the universe, and the galaxy would never be the same. On the council station, a small plaque had been installed in the observation lounge where Nora made her broadcast. It was written in 700 languages, readable by beings from across the known universe. The inscription was simple. Here, a cadet and her beast stood against an empire. Here, love was proven stronger than fear. Touch what a human loves at your peril. They do not make threats. They make promises. And they always keep them. Below the inscription, someone had added a photograph. A young woman with tired eyes and fierce determination. A German shepherd with calm, patient loyalty. And beneath the photograph, 3 words that would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. We love forever. The end